Most parents would do anything to protect and care for their children, but according to prosecutors, not the mother in our next story. They charged her with failing to care for her sick daughter, Ariel, failing so badly, they say it constituted murder. Tonight in a Dateline Court TV exclusive, Rob Stafford has the story of this landmark trial and the question, what happened to Ariel?
Who are you?
I'm Ariel. What's your name?
Everyone in this story will agree on one thing. 11-year-old Ariel Botzet was much too young to die.
If you want to ride a rainbow, come with me now.
She's truly, truly missed. Life without her is so very difficult.
Ariel's death traumatized the Botzet family even more when they were told the cause of death, homicide.
Can you tell me about the last moment you had with your daughter?
I was reading her favorite book to her, rubbing her feet because she always loved her feet to be rubbed. And then later on they said that they were going to take her off life support, and they helped me put her in my arms so I could hold her one last time.
Ariel's parents, Cheryl and Randy, say Ariel was the daughter they always wanted.
Just looking at her, you know life would be better. She had that kind of charm and charisma.
Do you remember the day she was born?
Yes. It was November 6, 1992, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I finally got the girl that I've been praying for.
I'm looking at you.
Ariel was a rambunctious little girl, an animal lover with dirty blonde hair and an infectious smile.
We hiked, climbed, swimming. We were best friends, not just mother and daughter, but best friends.
Though Ariel could do just about anything, her parents learned she was different from other kids. It was 1995. Ariel was only 3.
What was the first sign that something was wrong with Ariel?
I noticed that she was drinking entirely way too much.
Juice, water, Ariel had an unquenchable thirst. And Cheryl says something else seemed strange.
I noticed she developed like a juicy fruit gum smell on her breath.
And then came the day Ariel blacked out.
We were sitting around the table, and her eyes rolled up, and her lips turned purple, and she wasn't answering.
Cheryl rushed Ariel to the doctor, and after a series of tests, a diagnosis.
He said that she had diabetes.
Diabetes.
Yes.
Ariel was a type 1 or juvenile diabetic. It meant she'd need constant monitoring and daily insulin injections for the rest of her life.
The doctor says diabetes. What goes through your mind?
What is that? I was petrified. I was scared.
She had reason to be. Without careful management, diabetes can lead to blindness, amputations, even death. Within hours, Cheryl got a crash course on how to care for her daughter. Several times every day, she'd have to prick Ariel's finger to test her blood and give her insulin shots.
How many shots of insulin do you have to give Ariel a day as she's growing up?
It varied from anywhere 2, 3, sometimes 4.
What's it like giving the little kid a shot every day?
In the beginning, it was very hard. That's your baby. But you got to do what you got to do to keep your baby well.
Over the years, Ariel seemed to adapt, but the care her chronic illness demanded put a strain on the family.
It's not just her or an individual with diabetes. It affects everybody.
What do you think it did to your marriage?
I sometimes think it put a big hole in it.
By the time Ariel turned 11, Cheryl and her husband had separated, and Ariel was living with her mom. Ariel seemed fine, living without major complications for 8 years. But on a Thursday night, the first week of February 2004, everything changed. Cheryl says that night Ariel seemed to come down with the flu, though she hadn't lost her usual feistiness.
She was taking a bath, and when I went in the bathroom, she had her goggles and her snorkel and my swimming suit ready for me to jump in.
Did you have any idea what the next 24 hours were going to be like?
No.
Cheryl says Ariel's flu symptoms worsened in the middle of the night, and her daughter began to vomit. The next day, Cheryl stayed home from work.
I got her up and said, "You're going to the doctor's," and she fought, argued, screamed about it. She didn't want to go.
And what did you say?
I said, "You're going."
A friend drove them to this clinic called Quick Care, but within minutes, the clinic was calling 911, and paramedics were rushing Ariel to a hospital as Ariel slipped in and out of consciousness.
It just didn't seem like we were getting there fast enough. When we got to the hospital, she wasn't responding.
By the time Ariel arrived at the hospital, her brain had swelled so much she had to be put on life support. Doctors couldn't save her. 3 days later, with her parents at her side, Ariel died. The cause of death, diabetic ketoacidosis, the result of Ariel having high blood sugar and not enough insulin. Doctors here at the hospital tested Ariel and found her blood sugar had been abnormally high, not just at the time she died, but surprisingly in the month leading up to her death, which raised the question, was Ariel's death a natural complication from diabetes or something worse? Doctors were suspicious and called authorities, and they brought their questions directly to Cheryl.
I was devastated by the tragedy that had happened. And then on top of that, them questioning me was absurd to me.
3 months later, Cheryl Botzet wasn't being questioned by public health officials. She was being questioned by homicide detectives who had searched her home, gathered evidence, and reached a stunning conclusion that Cheryl Botzet wasn't just a grieving mom, she was a suspect. According to investigators, Cheryl neglected her daughter so seriously it amounted to a criminal act.
What is the charge?
Murder.
Murder.
Yes.
Of your own daughter?
Yes.
When we return, the trial begins, and a string of witnesses put this mother in a whole different light.
She said that she didn't need anybody to tell her how to help take care of her daughter's diabetes.
There was chronic medical neglect.
The prosecution goes on the attack when what happened to Ariel continues.
I know you. You're sitting there with rheumatoid arthritis. This is one of your good days, right? And you're gonna wait. Till when? Till you can't turn on a light? A piece of advice about waiting? Don't. Not when there's Humira. Talk with a rheumatologist today. Humira doesn't just help stop the pain and stiffness. It can even slow the progress of RA. Because just sitting there, your joints could be deteriorating. And when they're gone, they're gone.
Some people with heart failure should not take Humira. Humira can lower your ability to fight infections. So tell your doctor right away if you have ever had tuberculosis or are prone to infection, or if you get an infection. Do not start Humira if you have an infection such as an open sore or the flu. There have been rare reports of serious and sometimes fatal infections and tuberculosis. Blood disorders, nervous system disorders, serious allergic reactions, and lymphoma have occurred.
Do it. Talk with a rheumatologist about Humira.
What was I thinking?
I love that dress. You are gorgeous.
Yeah.
You're beautiful.
Are my teeth looking a little dull?
Well, they're not. Well, they're just, there's...
Over time, your enamel can become fragile and dull. Introducing Colgate Luminous toothpaste. It strengthens your enamel. And compared to a regular fluoride toothpaste, it gives you a brighter, shinier, more luminous smile.
Wow.
The dress?
The smile.
New Colgate Luminous. Strengthens enamel for a more luminous smile.
Excuse me, are you happy with the service you're getting from your stockbroker?
Oh, sure. I love feeling like a small fish in a big pond.
Service? What's that?
I started investing for myself online at TD Waterhouse. They follow up when I have a question, and they actually make me feel important.
At TD Waterhouse, their investment consultants will give you the attention you deserve, no matter what size your portfolio is. You can do this. Switch to TD Waterhouse, the alternative to higher-priced brokers.
If you're thinking about joint replacement surgery, here's an important question to consider. Which implant is right for your specific needs? Only your doctor knows for sure. He also knows that Biomed offers the widest range of implant choices and sizes available today. Is Biomet right for you? Ask your doctor. To learn more, visit our website or call for a free brochure. Biomet, advanced science for real living.
The New World is one of the most critically acclaimed movies of the year. A work of breathtaking imagination and in every sense a masterpiece, hails the LA Times. The best historical epic romance since Titanic, says Richard Roper. And Rolling Stone rays, the rapturously romantic and haunting New World is a genuine event. The New World, rated PG-13, now playing.
NBC tonight, a parent's worst nightmare hits home.
We'll find her, Garrett.
A daughter on the run.
People are trying to kill her. We are doing everything in our power.
A father's desperate search could cost him his life. All new Crossing Jordan, tonight on NBC.
Dateline Friday. Last year, we made headlines by catching internet predators on tape. You'd think they would have learned their lesson. But now a brand new batch of men come to a house expecting to meet a young teen. Instead, they get a date with Dateline. And this time, the cops are waiting to catch a Predator 3. An all-new Dateline Friday, NBC 9/8 Central.
A rare rainy sky covered Las Vegas the day Cheryl Botzet stood to face charges of first-degree murder.
First-degree murder, I think, to most people is somebody plans to kill someone. They go out, they take a gun, and they do it.
If you understand diabetes and what's required of a parent of a juvenile diabetic, there is no distinction factually between what you just said, that Cheryl walked up, put a loaded gun to the back of her daughter's head and pulled the trigger, because that's exactly what happened. Other than it wasn't a gun. She was the subject of child abuse.
Right away in his opening statement, prosecutor Dave Stanton described Botzet not as a caring parent, but a neglectful mother who killed her own child.
Type 1 juvenile diabetics have a fatal disease. In this day and age, they should never be next to a cliff. This defendant took her daughter's hand, walked her to the edge of that cliff, and shoved her off.
It's a shame, a travesty that an 11-year-old little girl should be dead because she wasn't cared for.
To prove murder, prosecutor Stanton and co-counsel Vicki Monroe had to convince the jury that Cheryl Botzet knew how to care for her daughter's diabetes, but didn't, and that neglect caused her death. It was the first case of its kind in Nevada, a mother charged with murder in the death of her diabetic child. If convicted of the most serious charge against her, Cheryl Botzet faced the possibility of spending the rest of her life behind bars.
An exhibit that you were shown during that testimony, refresh your recollection?
The prosecution says Cheryl began a pattern of neglecting Ariel shortly after she separated from her husband and moved to Colorado. It was then, according to prosecutors, that Ariel's health and Cheryl's attention to it began to deteriorate.
I'm the diabetes coordinator with Indian Health Services.
Nurse Molly Jane Baggard examined Ariel in Colorado 18 months before Ariel's death. She told the jury she was concerned about the results of a test called a hemoglobin A1C, a forensic snapshot of Ariel's blood sugar for the past 3 months.
We talked about the importance of blood glucose control. We discussed what Ariel's current A1C was, because it was obvious that the blood sugars had been too high for too long.
A healthy test result for a diabetic is roughly 7%. Ariel's was 15, more than twice what it should have been.
And where was 15% on your chart that you showed the defendant?
It was off the chart. That particular flow sheet or flip chart only goes to 13.
A result prosecutors say would alarm any parent of a diabetic child, but not Cheryl Botzet. Instead, it was the nurse who was alarmed. A diabetic herself, the nurse testified Cheryl had lost Ariel's glucometer, the crucial device needed every day to measure her daughter's blood sugar. And worse, she'd even run out of insulin, the daily medication Ariel desperately needed to stay alive. Banger testified she was so concerned about the little girl, she gave Ariel some of her own insulin.
I gave him 2 blood glucose meters, one for home and one for school, and I gave her a bottle of insulin from my personal supply because I was concerned about the blood sugars being so high.
Even though Cheryl had been taught at least twice over the years how to care for her daughter, the nurse testified she too tried to teach Cheryl how to better maintain Ariel's health. But she says Cheryl seemed more defensive than concerned.
What do you recall about the defendant's response to your request for education about diabetes?
She said that she didn't need anybody to tell her how to help take care of her daughter's diabetes.
Perhaps the most convincing part of the prosecution's case focused on the week Ariel died. By then, Cheryl and Ariel had moved back to Las Vegas. It was Super Bowl Sunday 2004. Ariel rode her bike across town from her mother's apartment to a party at her father's house.
Can you describe how Ariel looked, both her physical appearance to you and how her behavior was at your Super Bowl party?
She was a little bit pale. Not real pale, but just a little discolored. I thought maybe it had been from riding her bike or something.
Is that the last time you saw your daughter Ariel alive?
Yes.
Did you talk to your daughter the next day?
Yes. She wanted to go swimming.
Was there anything about her demeanor on the telephone that concerned you about her swimming?
She had sniffles, and I told her, tell your mom, you should make a doctor appointment or go to the doctors.
Despite Ariel's symptoms, the prosecution says Cheryl did nothing and waited, taking her daughter to this clinic 5 days later. At 3 p.m. Friday, February 6. Ariel's condition was getting worse.
Her eyes were sunken.
Dr. Amarita Abella testified that Cheryl told her Ariel had been sick for several days.
She was saying that, oh, she had this 3 or 4 days ago. Well, I thought that was flu.
What you heard the mother say was that she had been vomiting for approximately 3 to 4 days?
On and off.
To prosecutors, a critical piece of testimony. They say Cheryl had been repeatedly taught that unlike a healthy child, anytime a diabetic child vomited, a doctor needed to be called immediately, not days later. In fact, Ariel's condition was so grave by the time Cheryl sought help, the clinic couldn't handle it. They rushed her to a nearby hospital where Ariel was given that A1C blood test again. This time the reading was 16.1, even higher than the number that had concerned the nurse from Colorado a year and a half earlier, and once again off the charts. Prosecutors called Las Vegas homicide detective Mark McNett to prove the high test result was caused by Cheryl's pattern of neglect.
The glucometer has a downloadable feature. It stores data on it for a certain number of readings.
McNett testified when Ariel was sick, her glucometer, that crucial blood testing device, showed Ariel was tested just 2 times that entire week, instead of the minimum of 4 times every single day. Prosecutor Vicki Monroe.
That glucometer doesn't just talk about the tests that were done, it talks about the tests that weren't done.
Absolutely. Ultimately, the results of that glucometer came out that this child was tested on January the 30th, Friday, the day she was in school, and February the 6th, the day she was taken to the hospital. There were no other readings on that glucometer.
Not on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Not on any of those days.
On top of that, insurance records show Cheryl purchased just 2 bottles of insulin the year before Ariel died. Most diabetics need 2 bottles each month. After receiving this information from detectives, Clark County Medical Examiner Dr. Larry Sims crystallized the prosecution's case.
Do you have an opinion, Dr. Sims, after your entire examination of the material you outlined, what the cause of death for Ariel Botzet was?
The cause of death was diabetic ketoacidosis.
And the manner of death?
Homicide. There wasn't enough insulin being purchased in order to sustain the dosages. It was very reasonable to me to conclude that there was chronic medical neglect.
It was a definitive conclusion that seemed to seal the prosecution's case, as Vicki Monroe hammered home the loss of a little girl's life and pointed the finger at the woman she says caused it.
Do you have any idea or any doubt that the defendant did not know how to take care of this child properly? You bet she did. She knew. She wasn't a parent who wasn't told these things. And her failure to care for this child over the last 3 months of her life was her own doing. Her choice. Her choice to let this child not get her insulin. Her choice to not test this child 4 to 6 times a day. Perhaps if she'd been brought to the hospital earlier, Ariel Botzet would not be a photo on a monitor, and we're talking about her death and who's responsible for it. We wouldn't be here, possibly. I would submit to you, there can be no doubt in anyone's mind that that woman is guilty, and the proper verdict in this case is first-degree murder. Thank you.
To prosecutors, it was open and shut. But defense attorney Herb Sachs was about to pull off a Perry Mason moment he was convinced would change the jury's mind.
Could you say today, with a reasonable degree of medical certainty, that the manner of death was a homicide?
Coming up, the answer that could turn this trial on its head as the defense offers another explanation for Ariel's death.
Would cheating cause blood sugars to be high? Kid grabs a bar of chocolate, drinks pot, would that cause the blood sugars to be high?
Yes. But is this blaming the victim when what happened to Ariel continues?
Our taxes are done. Our taxes are done.
What?
Shouldn't we have found one of those tax stores?
Why? TurboTax asks me questions just like the tax guy does, then puts the answers on all the right forms.
But the tax guy checks it.
TurboTax checks for errors and missed deductions.
How do we know it's right?
All calculations are guaranteed accurate. Over 20 million returns were prepared with TurboTax last year alone.
Well, if it's so good, then how much are we getting back? Wow!
TurboTax. Taxes made easy, taxes done right.
7-Up Plus with calcium. With a burst of real fruit juice, 10% of your daily calcium, and only 10 calories per serving. It tastes so good, you can feel it in your bones. 7-Up Plus. For great taste with calcium, the only way to go is up.
Her nasal allergy symptoms had me jumping through hoops.
Did you get my Flonase refilled?
Would I deny you Flonase? For best results, use daily. Side effects may include headache, nosebleed, or sore throat. Can't give you diamonds.
I accept refills.
In all of the jungle, no creature is as curious as George. But on February 10th,
hey, little guy,
he'll take his monkey business to the big city.
You followed me all the way from Africa?
From producer Ron Howard,
hang on, little fella,
comes a story about two friends with a taste for adventure. Featuring the voice talents of Will Ferrell and Drew Barrymore. Curious George, rated G, starts February 10th.
He came to this house to have sex with a minor. He should know better, especially since...
You ever watch Dateline NBC? Yes. Have you ever seen our stories on computer predators? Yes. This is one of them.
And there are dozens more like him. To Catch a Predator 3, Friday, 9/8 Central.
In this final season of Will and Grace, two of the biggest events are coming in the next 2 weeks.
Prepare to be amazed.
With a surprise engagement.
Will you marry me?
And the startling news that will bring Grace's one true love back.
I have no idea what to do.
It all begins this Thursday on NBC.
The tragic truth revealed.
My son is dead. You killed him.
And the shocks keep coming.
Dad gave me permission to drive his car.
Days of Our Lives, NBC Daytime.
Hi, I'm Natalie Goldis, and as a professional golfer, I'm always on the road, either driving around town in my new Passat or traveling to golf tournaments in my Touareg. Both are amazing to drive, but not as amazing as the dealership I got them from. Findlay Volkswagen has the best selection, value, and service in Nevada. So if you're looking for a new car, come by today, and you might just meet me at Findlay Volkswagen in the Valley Auto Mall.
Drivers wanted.
And so many drivers found.
Findlay Volkswagen.
It's the world's biggest Hyundai sale going on now through Monday. New Accent's $49.88, Elantra's $62.88, and Sonata's just $10,888. All backed by America's best warranty. How does London Hyundai get to be #1 in the world? It's simple. Lowest prices. On what's the heritage west of Rainbow? London Hyundai!
Lexus RX with vehicle stability control helps maintain traction to keep you on the road. So nothing else has to. At Lexus of Las Vegas.
Mr. Olympia back in Las Vegas behind bars on Night Side.
This is a country of justice, or supposed to be, and this is the most unjust prosecution I have seen. As a matter of fact, I changed the word from prosecution to persecution.
Even before Cheryl Botzet set foot in this courtroom, the defense went on the offense. Attorney Herb Sachs accused prosecutors and police of being overzealous by charging a grieving mom with murder.
You hear the charge, first-degree murder. What goes through your mind?
That the DA wants some sort of publicity or something. I've had many, many a criminal case in 54 years, and I have never seen a case like this.
The defense attorney says Ariel's death was not a crime, but the result of a lifelong disease that tragically robbed Cheryl Botzet of the daughter she loved.
My client did not cause her daughter's death, nor did she want her daughter to die.
The defense strategy was clear: turn each prosecution witness into a witness for the defense by raising reasonable doubt during cross-examination.
Would you still say it was chronic medical neglect?
Remember, prosecutors presented testimony that Cheryl waited days to take Ariel to the doctor. Attorney Sachs challenged that allegation. He says Cheryl acted quickly, within hours. To prove his point, he questioned police investigator Lisa Mick.
And you asked Cheryl when Ariel had thrown up, and she said early Friday morning or Thursday night.
Yes.
Investigator Mick interviewed Cheryl the day Ariel died. She says Cheryl told her Ariel began vomiting only the night before she sought help,
Just Thursday.
not several days as another prosecution witness had previously testified.
I questioned her, how long had she been sick for? Answer, just a day.
Investigator Mick was also the first to search Cheryl's apartment. Remember, Cheryl's insurance record shows she bought only 2 bottles of insulin that year? The defense argued that simply wasn't true.
Now you found 4 bottles of insulin.
Yes.
Did you say 2 were open?
2 were in boxes.
Well, were any of those bottles open that you know?
They appeared to be been used, but I don't know how many times.
I see. And that was how many bottles appeared to be used?
2.
And 2 bottles appeared to be unused?
Yes.
Unopened?
Correct.
And all 4 came out of the refrigerator?
Yes.
The defense argued the insurance records tell only part of the story. Attorney Sachs says his investigation found Cheryl bought insulin over the counter without notifying insurance, a perfectly legal way to do it. And then she stockpiled, hardly the actions of an abusive, neglectful mom. He questioned Detective Mark McNett.
Did you ask Mrs. Botzet how many times she purchased insulin over the counter?
No, I didn't. The insurance records should indicate whether she purchased them over the counter or through the pharmacies.
All right.
She states in her statement that she purchased using the insurance. Their billing records show when purchases were made.
Did you ask her if all the purchases were made through that insurance?
I didn't ask the word all, no.
Why was I able to find out that she purchased more, and why weren't they? And the reason I figured out on our strategy was because they wanted her convicted. So they didn't want to find out that she had purchased more.
And Attorney Sachs contended his investigation found something else, that Cheryl had at least 3 blood testing devices, not just 1 glucometer as the prosecution claimed.
You brought 2 glucometers with you, is that correct?
2 additional glucometers, yes.
And where did you get those glucometers from?
I got those from this court.
And do you know where the court got them from?
You.
Sachs pointed out the police didn't find those glucometers, the defense did. And even though they showed no readings, to Sachs, it raised the possibility Cheryl could have tested Ariel more than just 2 times that week, as prosecutors alleged.
You were there, as a matter of fact, when I produced them, is that correct?
Yes, I was.
But the defense still had to answer a crucial question for the jury. If Cheryl was stockpiling insulin and was testing Ariel's blood regularly, why were Ariel's blood sugar readings still so high? Attorney Sachs used one of the prosecution's witnesses, the nurse from Colorado, to give one possible explanation: that Ariel ate foods she wasn't supposed to eat.
Would cheating cause blood sugars to be high? When I say cheating, grabs a bar of chocolate, drinks pop, would that cause the blood sugars to be high?
Yes. That's one of many things that can cause blood sugars to be high.
Now, in your mind, do take into consideration that she might have been cheating.
Was she a typical kid and ate things
Yes.
that we wouldn't have recommended? Absolutely.
Okay. And typical kids cheat, don't they?
They have soda pop, they have candies, but typical kids don't have to worry about the effect that it does on their blood sugar.
How tricky is it for you to explain to the jury that Ariel cheated on her diet without blaming the child for what happened?
And the reason of bringing that out is to show why, no matter how well she was being cared for by her mother, that if she cheats on her diet, if she eats chocolate, the blood sugars are going to go high, and the finger testing, the blood testing, will show a high blood sugar.
In the defense quest to raise reasonable doubt, it saw the cross-examination of the medical examiner as its smoking gun. Remember, Dr. Larry Sims ruled Ariel's death a homicide based largely on information provided by detectives. The doctor was told Cheryl didn't purchase enough insulin to keep her daughter healthy.
Did you later find out from conversations with me about other purchases that were made by Ariel Botzet for insulin?
Yes.
Did I supply you with any documentation?
Yes, you gave me a list of a number of insulin purchases.
Now, did you ask the police why they did not investigate further and why they did not come up with the same information I came up with?
No, I didn't ask them that direct question, no.
The defense argued that had the medical examiner known of Cheryl's over-the-counter purchases of insulin, his conclusion about how Ariel died would have been far different and a fatal blow to the prosecution's case.
Now, based upon the information you received from me and conversations with my experts, as well as whatever else you relied upon, could you say today, with a reasonable degree of medical certainty, that the manner of death was a homicide?
No, I don't think I would. If that information is correct and my calculations were correct and everything, I don't think I could maintain that as a conclusion, though.
How important is that answer to you?
Well, that should be the only one who can make that determination as to whether or not there's a homicide or not a homicide is the medical examiner or the coroner. And therefore, if he can't say it, there is no homicide that was proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
You think you have won this case at
Well,
that
absolutely.
moment?
So confident the prosecution hadn't proved its case, the defense took a gamble and went into closing arguments without calling a single witness of their own.
So she's followed all instructions. That make her a bad, negligent mother? Obviously not. Why do we call her a bad, negligent mother? Because they don't have a case of premeditation, deliberation. They don't have a case of murder. She wasn't going to wait. She took the kid like a good mother should do, irrespective of what the DA says. What a good mother should do, she did. She took this child right to quick care and brought her in for treatment. What more should a mother do?
Was it enough for the defense? Cheryl Botzet, facing life in prison, would now have to wait for the jury to decide her fate.
Coming up, was what happened to Ariel a crime? The jury confronts that difficult question.
She had no glucometer. How do you lose something so important to the treatment of your child?
Murder to me is so strong. I don't feel like she murdered her daughter.
When what happened to Ariel continues.
When your card not only says the perfect thing, it sings it. You're in the good place. New Say It With Music cards, only at today's Hallmark Gold Crown.
Here you go, wild thing.
Any questions?
Where did the pilgrim shop?
Diana Morgan was destined to be a spender.
Can you believe she's wearing white after Labor Day?
Okay, what do you see?
Italian leather slingbacks.
But today, every time Diana uses one from American Express, we make a deposit to a high-yield savings account.
They're adorable.
Aren't they? I have a pair in lime green, too. Now when Diana spends, she also saves. Introducing one from American Express.
A sore throat is bad enough. A cough can blast it with painful shock waves. Now there's one lozenge, Cepacol Sore Throat Plus Cough. The only lozenge with pain-numbing anesthetic plus cough suppressant. New Cepacol Sore Throat Plus Cough.
I don't want healthy skin for a day. I want healthy skin for life.
Aveeno Daily Moisturizing Lotion is clinically proven to actually improve the health of your dry skin with its natural oatmeal formula. It actively helps heal and protect skin by locking in moisture for a full 24 hours. Use it every day for healthy, beautiful skin that lasts.
I found the moisturizer for life.
Aveeno Daily Moisturizing Lotion. And to help heal and protect baby's delicate skin, discover pediatrician-recommended Aveeno Baby from the leader in active naturals.
Right now at Red Lobster, choose your 2 favorites from 5 of our most irresistible jumbo shrimp dishes, like Jumbo Scampi, hand-breaded crunch fried, or our new decadent lobster and crab stuffed shrimp. That's Jumbo Shrimp, only at Red Lobster.
Is that your new Sprint phone?
Uh-huh. With Sprint's new fair and flexible plans, no one can tell me what to do. I can talk when and how I want. It's my little way of sticking it to the man.
But you are the man.
I know.
So you're sticking it to yourself.
Maybe.
Sprint's new fair and flexible plans. With no huge overages or roaming charges, you control your plan. It doesn't control you. Plans start at just $29.99 a month. Sprint. Yes, you can.
Trucks are made for pulling. That's why the 5.4-liter V8 in the Ford F-150 uses an innovative 3-valve design. 3 valves allow the engine to breathe better, crank out more power, and pull more than you ever thought possible.
Friday in 1 week. The center of the world is Torino, Italy. Only once every 4 years, time stops and the whole world comes to one place for a magical night to celebrate the opening ceremony of the Olympic Winter Games. The spectacle, the emotion, the moments of a lifetime come together with the world. Friday in 1 week on NBC.
NBC Next. A young girl uncovers a secret to die for.
This will be a piece of cake.
Criminal Intent, next on NBC.
The prosecution's case seemed clear enough. Ariel Botzet died because her mother failed to give her the care she needed. But then came the defense, challenging prosecutors and their witnesses on nearly every point. Now the jury would have to look for the truth behind the testimony. Again, Rob Stafford.
You're taping me.
17 months after the death of Ariel Botzet, her mother's future and freedom were on the line.
This is News 3 at 5. Good evening, everyone. Nerves were raw on both sides of the courtroom today for closing arguments in the trial against Cheryl Botzet.
On television and on the internet, the story picked up steam. The jury deciding her fate knew the case was unusual and the stakes were high.
When I think of murder, I think of somebody shooting somebody or stabbing them, not this.
She had already lost her daughter. That's punishment in itself. But then, is there further punishment?
The judge told the jury to set aside personal feelings and stick to the evidence. Dateline spoke with 10 of the jurors who told us their deliberations began with a vote.
We took an anonymous vote right off the bat.
Right now.
Did everyone agree on that first vote?
No.
On what the verdict would be?
No.
The jury had 3 options: convict Cheryl Botzet of first or second degree murder or find her not guilty. To convict, the jury needed to believe that Cheryl Botzet either abused or neglected Ariel by not properly caring for her, and that the abuse or neglect directly caused Ariel's death.
This was the hardest thing I think I've ever done in my life.
One of the first issues for the jury, Ariel's high blood sugar levels and the device Cheryl was supposed to use to measure them, her glucometer.
It showed to me that she knew this child was sick because of the readings, and I think the fact that it held memory was huge because there was no, you couldn't say, yeah, I did it, because the readings showed that she didn't do it for 2 or 3 days.
This juror, a diabetic herself, said she was stunned by how high Ariel's levels were.
My God, I'm alarmed.
What about the defense argument that Ariel cheated on her diet, causing her blood sugar levels to soar?
That turned me off because he was kept saying, well, this child's a cheater and this child, she didn't take responsibility. So that turned me off blaming the child.
It was like he was trying for whatever would stick.
What did seem to stick was testimony from the Colorado nurse who examined Ariel.
She explained that her readings were off the scale, and she asked her, did she understand how to take care of her child? You know, you need to do this, you need to do that. And Cheryl Botzet specifically said, don't tell me how to take care of my child.
And she had no glucometer when she got there.
She had no glucose stored there.
How do you lose something so important to the treatment of your child?
But the judge limited conclusions that the jurors could make from the nurse's testimony. They were not allowed to consider if Cheryl neglected Ariel in Colorado, only if Cheryl was educated on caring for a diabetic child.
A lot of the Colorado, to me, was hard. You know, it's hard because once it's out there in the open, it's hard to put that aside.
The horse was out of the barn.
It was out, but we had...
So you're hearing more evidence than you're supposed to hear.
Sure.
But you've already heard it.
Yep.
Are you able to ignore it?
I mean, that was what was hard for me. I really tried to avoid it.
So they tried to focus only on what happened at the Botzet home in Las Vegas in the time leading up to Ariel's death. Perhaps most important was to answer the question, did Cheryl have enough insulin to care for Ariel?
How much
Or how little. That's the way I kept thinking of it. How little that she began to purchase.
The defense contends that she stockpiled insulin, bought it over the counter. Did you buy that argument?
No.
She had 2 bottles that she hadn't opened and 2 bottles that had been opened. And that's all she had in her house. Yeah. And where was all this stockpile at?
Despite the fact some jurors were skeptical, they still felt for Cheryl Botzet, a single mother with a diabetic daughter, a tough balancing act for any parent.
I think it was very difficult. I mean, 4 to 6 times a day, checking her blood and keeping track of how many shots she has, how many units she's had.
This young working mother says she has a sick child at home and says she could relate to some of Cheryl's struggles and her heartbreak.
Her punishment is that she has to live the rest of her life without her daughter. And being a mother, that would be the worst for me personally.
Some felt it was unfair to place all the blame on Ariel's mother. After all, her father, Randy, lived nearby, saw Ariel the week she died, and testified she looked sick.
She was a little bit pale.
That's what frustrated me so much, is that it just is everything was put on her shoulders.
Why didn't he put her in the car and run her home and say, you need to get your glucometer, we need to check your blood sugar? Who knows? That could have saved her life.
And what about that Perry Mason moment from the defense, when the medical examiner seemed to question whether a homicide had even occurred?
Could you say today that the manner of death was a homicide?
No, I don't think I could maintain that as a conclusion, no.
Several jurors zeroed in on that.
Sims came back and said, well, it might not be homicide after the defense presented some new facts to him.
Right. So suddenly the man who ruled it was a homicide seems to have some doubt.
Right.
Sure.
And does that make you think perhaps you should have doubt as well?
Mm-hmm. I think it did put a lot of it.
You don't want to say that Cheryl Botzet is guilty of murder.
Correct.
Why not?
Murder to me is so strong. I don't feel like she murdered her daughter.
The jury was about to reach a verdict, and attorneys on both sides of this case would soon be stunned, not by one, but 2 startling decisions.
Verdict. We, the jury in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Cheryl Botzet, also known as Cheryl Botzet.
Hated to be in control of this woman's life, and I didn't want to make the wrong choice.
Still to come, in a surprising twist, why the jury's decision may not even matter.
Oh my God.
When What Happened to Ariel continues.
Wednesday on E-Ring. A general has been kidnapped. His wife has been murdered. To reunite a father and son.
We need to fear our retribution.
One soldier will risk everything.
We're going to have a diplomatic crisis on our hands.
You're gonna save her?
Yeah. An all-new E-Ring, Wednesday on NBC.
I assure you, miss, the man who did this will be punished to the fullest extent of the law.
The average age of a New York assistant district attorney is only 28 years old.
The new day dawns, and I am practicing my purpose once again.
I'm not sure I'm ready.
You'll be fine.
It's fresh and it is fruitful if I win, but if I lose,
This your first date?
Yes.
The guy had Mike murdered. We offer you 20 to life and keep parole on the table.
How do you live with yourself sending children to prison?
But only time will tell. You got to keep it up and don't give up.
Get a verdict yet? I lost my first case, too. I won.
All will be well. You can ask me how, but only time will tell.
Unique style and capability. It all comes together with the 2006 2.4-liter 150 horsepower Chrysler PT Cruiser. It has a distinctive new look and a brand new interior with massive amounts of passenger room and cargo space. PT Cruiser even gets 29 miles per gallon highway and was recently named a Consumer Guide Automotive Best Buy. So separate yourself from the ordinary in the redesigned Chrysler PT Cruiser. Now with overstock bonus cash, qualified lessees can lease a PT Cruiser base for just $189 a month.
There's a place where the legends of old ride again. Where what was once a welcome oasis is now a thriving community. And the raw beauty of the land is still very much alive. It is where the spirit of the Old West can be felt in the heart of your future. Wow. This is Mountain's Edge. Come discover the new Southwest.
Now that you have a new Santa Fe from Henderson Hyundai, where are you going?
To Lake Mead, of course.
You're in a new Tiburon from Henderson Hyundai. Where are you headed?
To the Speedway, of course.
You have a new Accent from Henderson Hyundai. Where are you going?
To UNLV, of course.
Find all these new Hyundais backed by America's best warranty. Plus, get the Henderson Hyundai Advantage with every purchase. 2 years free oil changes. Get more at the Henderson Hyundai Superstore.
Watch Rick, Ken, Gerard, and Lisa Weekend.
Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict on the charges presented to it?
Yes, it has.
A year and a half after the death of her daughter, Cheryl Botzet was about to learn whether she'd be convicted or cleared of the worst crime a mother could be accused of, killing her own child.
The verdict has come in.
Jurors just got the case this afternoon. It was a quick deliberation period for this jury.
In a surprise to most everyone watching, the jury reached its verdict after just 2 hours of deliberation. And lawyers on both sides thought they knew what the fast verdict meant.
Jury comes back after only 2 hours. You've been doing this a long time. What does your gut tell you about what the verdict's going to be?
Not guilty.
So you're feeling pretty good as that jury walks into the courtroom?
I'm feeling fairly confident. I'm not ready to celebrate yet, but I'm feeling fairly confident. A quick verdict like that favors the prosecution. But you never know. It could be an absolute embracing your theory of your case or an absolute rejection of it. I knew it was going to be one of those two.
Verdict. We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Cheryl Botzet, also known as Cheryl Musso, as follows. Count 1, guilty of second-degree murder. Dated this 25th day of October, the year 2005.
Guilty of murder in the second degree. At the defense table, Cheryl Botzet sat for 9 minutes before the emotion of the moment spilled out.
Sure, you can come back here and talk to me.
She knew the guilty verdict meant she faced at least 10 years in prison, possibly the rest of her life. Minutes later, in a conference room with her boyfriend, the reality of the judgment against her continued to sink in.
Oh my God.
Outside the courthouse, amidst a crush of reporters, the opposite reaction from Ariel's father, Cheryl's former husband, Randy.
I mean, she deserves what she got. She did the wrong thing, and now she's going to pay for it. So, and it's about time. Yeah.
Randy hoped the verdict would bring closure for him and his family. But less than 6 weeks after the guilty verdict, defense attorney Herb Sachs was back in court, Cheryl by his side, hoping to convince the judge she had made a mistake and should overturn the conviction.
If the verdict is unjust in fact and in law, then it's my responsibility to make sure that the injustice is undone. Using the witnesses from Colorado only for the purposes of education.
Remember Molly Jane Baggert, the nurse from Colorado? Sachs argued the judge should have never allowed the nurse to testify about things Cheryl might have said or done years before Ariel's death. Alleged bad acts the jury should not have been able to consider.
And he went there over and over and over again.
In a twist that would stun the Las Vegas community,
I think it was error on this court's part to allow the evidence.
The judge said she had, in fact, made a mistake and granted Cheryl Botzet a new trial. Cheryl is free for now. Prosecutors are adamant this latest twist in the case will not be its last. They're now appealing and say they're confident they'll get another chance to convict Cheryl Botzet.
Why are you so determined to try this case again?
Simply based upon the facts. It isn't a close call about a mother who failed to give insulin to a child 1 or 2 days or over a week. But the nature and the severity of the neglect of her medical condition and the type of medical condition that she had, to me, just screams out that it's a murder and she needs to stand tall for that offense.
Given the fact a jury convicted Cheryl in 2 hours, are you concerned about the possibility of trying this case again?
Not the slightest, because what will be shown in the second trial is that my client, Cheryl Botzet, did everything that she knew how to do. She did everything that her education taught her to do.
While the debate continues over one girl's life tragically lost, Cheryl Botzet remains convinced that one day her name will finally be cleared, her role in her daughter's death finally absolved.
Do you feel any responsibility for Ariel's death?
No.
None whatsoever?
No.
Why not?
Because I was a good mom. I did the best I could for her. I know I gave my daughter love, good care, and I'm not a bad mother. And I'm going to fight for my innocence.
Today, Cheryl Botzet is a free woman, though she's still accused of murdering her diabetic daughter, who, for whatever reason, was much too young to die.
Prosecutors are appealing the judge's decision to grant Cheryl Botzet a new trial. The Nevada Supreme Court is expected to rule on the appeal later this year.
And still to come, computer